Well, kia ora, Motueka family. This week was Pentecost. It was the celebration of the church being born and the Spirit being given to it. What a celebration. So what does it mean? What is Pentecost about? Let me explain it in three ways. One, it's about an encouragement. Two, it's about a universal message for the whole world. And three, it reminds us that Jesus is the center of this movement. 6 years ago, I had real doubts about my ministry. I was feeling discouraged. I was down. I was away at a camp, and it was Queen's birthday weekend. And I remember walking into the main session, just thinking maybe I'll search for another job on Monday. But of course, I didn't. I was leading young people, and I knew the speaker who was speaking. And so I went along and I listened to this message. Now, this message talked about how we do ministry and how in that ministry sometimes we feel discouraged. And he had a word that God wanted to remind us of the encouragement and the Spirit in that moment. At the end of it, we were asked to pray together in groups. And I got to pray with a bunch of people. And I remember very distinctly, the person praying for me said, I think God wants to tell you that he sees what you are doing and he is super proud of you. Now, he had no idea and no understanding of what I was going through at that time. I wasn't letting anybody in. And yet Jesus and the Spirit spoke to me that day. It was the beginning of a little bit of a turnaround. And on Monday, I didn't search for another job. In fact, 3 years later, we were ordained as priests. It's a little bit similar, this moment, for the disciples. It is life-changing. It turns their life from being inside and scared to going outside and being fearless and joyful. So joyful and so fearless, it's described as them being drunk, looking like they were drunk. So what happened? Well, one, they were encouraged. The Spirit comes, when the Spirit encourages you, you move from that scared, uncertain, discouraged, like I was, into this joyful, fearless. You only care about what Jesus thinks. The Spirit is a spirit of encouragement. Secondly, what was happening here at Pentecost is that when Jesus and God used this moment in order that they might spread the gospel to all cultures and languages. It is described that there were 120 of them gathered in this room. And when they went outside, they spoke in their native language, and yet everybody else heard them in their own language. When God's message was proclaimed for the first time that Jesus was king, all of a sudden, it was proclaimed in a massive amount of cultures and languages at the same time. And so it's universal. This Christianity, this way of Jesus, has touched pretty much every culture in the world. It is a universal message, and the Spirit enabled that to happen at that time. But the third thing I want to remind us of is that if we think back in the Bible to times when God's presence turned up, there was fire present, there was wind present often. Think of Abraham, and when he made a covenant with God, the fiery furnace went through the halves that Jesus had cut. When Moses first encounters God, he encounters him in a burning bush. At Mount Sinai, God shows up on the mountain with thunder and lightning. In fact, that is what Pentecost was a celebration to remember. It was to remember the law being given to Moses. But here's the difference. Moses was a mediator between the people and God. He went up the mountain by himself. He was the beginning of this reconciliation, of this movement towards God restoring the whole world. In fact, just before him, the story of the Tower of Babel dominates the biblical picture. It is the end point where God says, enough is enough, I will do something differently. And after that, he appoints Abraham. See, in Babel, the people were searching for pride and ambition, and they were trying to build a tower as high as they could go. And so God, although they spake the same language, they do not understand one another. So what do we see in Pentecost? We see a reversal of this curse that was instigated at Babel. Now, although the people speak one language, everybody understands them. Jesus is healing the world. Jesus is reversing the curses of this place. Jesus is encouraging us. Jesus is bringing people together under Christ. And so this message, the message of Pentecost for me, is one where you can be encouraged. You can move from scared inside to fearless and joyful. It's a universal message. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're Jew, Greek, Roman, Arab, Asian, whatever it is, this message is for you. And thirdly, Jesus is sitting on the throne. He is now the mediator. He is the Moses, the new Moses, who is now between us and God, bringing this message together, bringing these people together, and empowering them and encouraging them with his Spirit. So that is the message of Pentecost. Have a great week.